There's a specific rhythm to betrayal. It doesn't start with shouting or tears. It starts with tiny details out of place. Like when I counted 13 kicks in a row at 10:14 p.m., and I knew, without a doubt, that the baby wasn't mine. Not because I doubted her loyalty, not because we hadn't tried, but because I counted. Every attempt, every cold shoulder, every not tonight, every pill bottle still full when it shouldn't have been. I'm a details guy. I write things down. I have apps, spreadsheets, reminders, logs, all of it. So when she rubbed her stomach and said, "He's always more active when you're around," I smiled. But my fingers clenched so hard my nails broke skin, because I knew I hadn't been around in the way it counted. The due date didn't line up. I'd done the math, not just in my head. I checked ovulation timelines, reviewed our intimacy calendar. Yes, I had one. Don't judge me. And the night she must have conceived, she was out of town. Marketing conference in Denver, she said. Came back smelling like a hotel hallway and someone else's shampoo. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Instead, I started testing her. Quietly. Softly. Asking weird questions. Like, "Do you remember the name of that pizza place we went to that weekend?" She blinked. "Which weekend?" "Exactly. Did you ever call the car rental place in Denver? They overcharged us." Yeah, I think it's fine now." We didn't rent a car. The lies were brittle, like glass barely frosted over. And then came the baby shower invite, addressed to both of us, from a woman named Rachel. Handwritten. Warm. "Can't wait to meet the little miracle. You two are going to be amazing parents." I called Rachel that night while Laurel was in the shower. Told her I couldn't make it. She paused. "Oh," she said. "I thought you were the one planning it with Carter." Carter. My stomach turned. That name. I hadn't heard it in 2 years. Her old coworker. The one she said was creepy. The one she blocked on social media. The one I once found in her call history at midnight. She claimed it was a pocket dial. Suddenly, I wasn't so sure. So I did what no man should have to do. I opened the folder I swore I'd never touch. Her old phone backups. Messages. Screenshots. Voice notes. What I found made my legs go numb. I wish I could say he's yours, but it's too late now. Let him raise it. He'll be good at diapers. He's too gentle to ever leave. She was right. I was too gentle, too trusting, too stupid. Until now. Because I've planned something. Something quiet. Something permanent. No screaming. No fights. Just the truth. And the truth has a date. She left her phone on the kitchen counter one morning, face down, as she rushed to the bathroom, holding her belly with both hands and groaning like she'd been stabbed in the ribs. I asked if she needed help. She mumbled something like cramps. But she was in her second trimester. Weren't those supposed to be gone by now? I stared at her phone like it was loaded. I'd never gone through it before. I used to think people who did that were insecure, distrustful. But I wasn't being paranoid anymore. I was trying to confirm what I already knew. The phone didn't unlock with her fingerprint. I knew the code. Her birthday, which, ironically, was the same date as the hotel receipt I found in the trash last week. The one she claimed was for her friend's baby moon. Inside the phone, everything looked too clean, like someone had bleached the soul out of it. No messages, no notifications. Even the browser history was wiped. That's when I realized something. She'd created a second messaging app, buried in a folder labeled Work Tools. It had a bland icon. Gray. Forgettable. But the messages inside. Not forgettable. Not at all. There were over 50 unread messages from one contact. Carter package. That emoji, the box. Was that a joke between them? A code? I didn't even want to know. "You looked so hot holding that belly last night. Makes me crazy." He still doesn't suspect a thing? Tell him it's early. Tell him anything. I don't know how long I stood there, reading. My throat dried out. My ears started ringing. My legs were weak, but not from shock, from restraint. I didn't scream. I didn't smash the phone. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I put the phone back exactly where it was. And I went into full observation mode. That afternoon, I offered to do the groceries. She practically shoved the list into my hands. Said, "Just make sure to get the right prenatal vitamins. The purple bottle, not the blue." I nodded, drove off, sat in the parking lot of the store, and opened the folded list. There were items she never bought before: organic ginger root, mint tea, unsweetened almond milk. But one thing stood out. Not a grocery item. A scribbled address. No label. Just a street name and a house number. I Googled it. It was 20 minutes away. a rental property. And the images online? One of them had Carter in the background, grilling on the porch like he lived there. I felt sick. I didn't go to the store. I drove home, parked 2 blocks away, and walked back so she wouldn't hear me pull in. From the kitchen window, I saw her talking on her phone, laughing. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but her hand was on her belly and she looked blissful, as if she was finally living a life she wanted, a life that didn't include me. That night, she came to bed early, curled up against me like she used to, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "You're going to be such a good dad." And for a second, one miserable, diluted second, I wanted to believe her. But all I could see was Carter's hand on her back from that rental photo. All I could hear were the messages calling me clueless. She was right. I'd been clueless. But now? Now I was just quiet. And the quiet version of me is dangerous. Because I wasn't planning to leave. I was planning to stay, just long enough to let the whole thing collapse around her. And when it does, I won't raise my voice. I'll raise the truth. It was on a Tuesday when Laurel came home with a bag full of nursery decorations. She set it down gently on the coffee table and beamed like she had just brought back a treasure chest. I was pretending to be absorbed in my laptop, but I watched her from the corner of my eye. Her joy looked real. Maybe too real. I didn't say anything until she pulled out a baby blue knitted blanket. It was the kind with little stars woven into the fabric. "Do you like it?" she asked me. I forced a nod, and she smiled, but what she didn't see was how my hand had curled into a fist in my lap. Not because of the blanket, but because I recognized the stitching. Laurel doesn't knit. Never has. But 2 years ago, I remember her laughing at a party, talking to a woman about how Carter's mom made the best baby gifts. I didn't think anything of it at the time. But this blanket, this exact star pattern, matched one I saw in a photo Carter had posted online when his sister had a baby last year. I looked it up again. Still there. Same stars. Same yarn. Same slightly crooked corner. She didn't just accept the blanket. She brought it into our home. As if I wouldn't notice. As if I was still that clueless man who couldn't add up a date. So that night, I did something I told myself I wouldn't do. I reached out to someone. I messaged Carter from a fake account. Just simple questions. Pretending to be a random guy asking about a rental opportunity at his address. He replied almost immediately. Friendly. Casual. But what mattered most wasn't what he said, it was the timestamp. He responded from that address while Laurel was supposedly at her prenatal class. The lie confirmed itself. When she came home, sweaty and red-faced, carrying her yoga mat, I stared at her like a stranger. She kissed my forehead, said the class was super intense, and walked right past the baby blanket, the ticking bomb on the couch. I wanted to scream. I wanted to confront her with every screenshot, every timestamp, every kick I had counted. But I didn't. Instead, I said something that changed everything. "We should do a maternity shoot." She froze in the hallway. "What?" I repeated it. "Photos. You know, those cute outdoor ones. Just us. Memories." She looked like someone had pulled the floor out from beneath her feet, but she caught herself and nodded. "Why, yeah. Sure. That would be nice." She was lying. Again. But not because of the photos. Because of what the photos might prove. That night, I booked the shoot with a photographer I found online, a woman named Leslie who specialized in family portraits. But I had an extra request. Something I didn't include in the booking form. I sent her a private message after confirming. "Please take close-ups. Details. Hands. Expressions. Anything unusual. I'm looking for something specific. You'll know what I mean when you see us." She didn't ask questions. Just said, "Understood." And so, 2 days later, we were in a sunny park, Laurel in a flowy dress, fake laughing through gritted teeth as I wrapped my arms around her. Her bump was front and center, and she kept adjusting it like it wasn't sitting right. The entire time, my smile was glued on. My heart was doing gymnastics. I leaned in and whispered, "You look beautiful." She smiled back, but her eyes? They flickered. For the first time in a long time, she looked nervous. And I realized then she wasn't scared I'd leave her. She was scared I'd find out before she was done using me. Later that evening, Leslie emailed me the raw photos. I didn't sleep. I zoomed in on every detail. One image made my breath catch not because of her face or mine, but because of what was around her wrist. A hospital band. Faint. Almost invisible. But there. I enhanced the photo. The name printed wasn't mine. It said C. Morrison. Carter's last name. I didn't even remember her wearing a band that day. She must have forgotten to remove it, thinking no one would notice. But I noticed. And now, I had proof. Not just of the affair. Not just of the pregnancy. But that she had medical records under another man's name. And tomorrow I had an appointment with a lawyer. Not for a divorce. Not yet. Something far more devastating. Because if she wanted me to raise this child, if she wanted to use my name, my insurance, my life, she was about to realize just how much I've really been watching. And how quiet men don't explode. They erase. I didn't know what to expect when I walked into the lawyer's office. I had never sat across from anyone in a suit with the power to dismantle a marriage before. His name was Grant. Square-jawed, gray-haired, expressionless, like a man who'd spent a lifetime absorbing disasters without flinching. When I sat down, I didn't even introduce myself. I just slid the manila folder across the desk. Inside were printed screenshots, 3 photos from the maternity shoot, including the one with the hospital band, and a small sticky note I had written just one line on. I've been told this baby is mine. I have reasons to believe that is not true. Grant didn't say anything at first. He just leafed through the materials like he was reading a grocery list. After a moment, he looked up and said, "We'll start with a paternity petition." Quietly. "You don't tell her anything yet." He told me I could request a prenatal paternity test under certain conditions, non-invasive, as long as I had her consent. Which, obviously, I wouldn't get if I asked directly. "So we need to be smart," he said. "Strategic. The more you stay quiet, the better your position becomes." I wasn't used to this kind of cold clarity, but it made something in my chest feel stronger. Not angry, just composed. Like I finally had a scalpel in a world full of hammers. 2 days later, I told Laurel I had a surprise for her. A private ultrasound appointment I'd booked as a gift. One of those high-tech places that makes those little 3D keepsake videos, I said, and her eyes lit up like she'd won a prize. She kissed me with a tenderness I hadn't felt in months. And I kissed her back, feeling a hollow echo where my trust used to be. The clinic was small, warm, decorated with soft lighting and plush chairs. The tech, a woman named Janessa, was already in the loop. Grant had arranged everything. She acted completely normal, cheerful even. Laurel laid back on the table and pulled up her shirt like nothing was wrong. I stood next to her, holding her hand, watching the screen light up with the fuzzy outline of a child who might be, but almost certainly wasn't mine. Laurel giggled. "He always stretches when I'm lying down." I said nothing, just stared, not at the screen, but at her reflection in the glass pane of the window behind her. She looked happy, or maybe she looked proud. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. After the appointment, we stopped at a cafe on the way home. She ordered peppermint tea and a slice of lemon cake. I watched her chew slowly, sipping between bites like she was savoring something more than just dessert. "I'm glad you're finally getting into this," she said. "For a while, I thought you were going to miss it all." I wanted to ask her what exactly I was going to miss. The betrayal? The lies? The way she still wore her wedding ring and smiled like this was some fairy tale we'd built together? Instead, I just said, "I'm trying." She leaned across the table and touched my wrist. "You're going to be a great dad." It was the first time the words made me feel nothing. That night, I went through the house and gathered every photo of us. Wedding photos, trip photos, even the blurry selfies from our old apartment. I scanned them, saved them to a drive, and boxed them up. Then I started quietly moving things into a storage unit under my name. Documents, spare clothes, cash, the framed note from my late mom. Every irreplaceable thing that I didn't want destroyed when she realized I knew. I also reached out to one more person, someone I never thought I'd speak to again. Laurel's sister, Maeve. They hadn't been close lately. Some falling out a year ago I was never told the details of. But I remembered something Maeve had once said when we were all drinking wine at Christmas. "Carter gives me the creeps. Be careful with that one." That was 3 years ago. It haunted me now. I messaged her from a burner email. Kept it vague but honest. "It's Ellis. I think something is happening with Laurel and Carter. I don't know how deep it goes. I think I'm not the father. Please don't tell her I reached out." She replied 2 hours later. "I've been waiting for this. Meet me. Tomorrow." I didn't sleep. In the dark, I lay next to Laurel, listening to her breathe. Every few minutes, she shifted, one hand resting protectively over her stomach like she was shielding a secret. I counted each time. 5 times between midnight and 2 a.m. I kept count of everything now. And tomorrow, Maeve might finally confirm what I'd already suspected. That Laurel wasn't just hiding the truth. She was building a life without me, using my name, my resources, my kindness as the scaffolding. But that scaffolding was about to crack. The meeting with Maeve wasn't dramatic. There was no rain, no secret rendezvous in a shadowy parking lot. It was quiet, disarmingly normal. We met at a breakfast spot just off a main road, the kind of place where no one looks up when the door opens, where the clink of coffee cups drowns out anything too personal. I got there early, sat in the corner booth, ordered black coffee, and waited with a stomach so tight it felt like it was folding in on itself. When Maeve walked in, she didn't smile. She spotted me immediately and walked over with a tight expression that wasn't sadness or sympathy, it was resignation. She slid into the booth across from me, didn't touch the menu, didn't even greet me properly. Just looked me in the eyes and said, "You know, don't you?" I nodded. She exhaled. Not a sigh of relief, not guilt. More like fatigue, like someone who had been carrying a weight she was never meant to hold. "I thought it would fall apart on its own," she said softly. "I thought you'd figure it out eventually. But I didn't think she'd go this far." "How long?" I asked, my voice so dry it cracked halfway through the question. Maeve looked down, picked at the corner of a paper napkin, then said, "I think it started again about 8 months ago. Maybe longer. But before that, it happened once already. Years ago." She swore it was a mistake. She cut him off. At least, that's what she told me. Again, the word stabbed harder than I expected. "You mean this isn't the first time?" Maeve nodded. "The first time was after that retreat she did with her old job. I think she confessed because she was scared he'd tell someone. But she got out ahead of it. Swore it was just once. Swore it would never happen again." Maeve looked at me, then away. "I told her she didn't deserve you. That was the last real conversation we had. We barely talk anymore. And when she got pregnant, I knew it couldn't be you. I've known for months, Ellis." I just sat there, frozen. There were people around us sipping coffee, scrolling their phones, living their normal mornings. Meanwhile, my marriage, my future, was dissolving one truth at a time in a cafe booth next to the creamers. "She told him she was keeping it?" I asked quietly. Maeve hesitated. "I don't know what she told you, but I saw her text once. She was scared at first, but then, I think she got attached. She kept saying things like, 'It's mine, not his,' like she had already decided that you would be the one raising it. Because she thought you wouldn't question it. Because you're, well, you." I swallowed hard. I knew what she meant. I was the guy who never yelled. The one who forgave too fast, who avoided conflict like it was fire. I played that part so well. Even her own sister didn't expect me to do anything about this. "I'm not here for revenge," I said. "I'm here to get out." Maeve nodded. "Good. But Ellis," she paused, eyes narrowing. "Be careful. You're not the only one she's manipulating. Carter doesn't think she's staying with him. She told him it's just a fling. That you're the future. That she wants a stable home. She's playing you both." That's when it all clicked. Laurel was playing chess on 2 boards. She wanted the benefits of Carter, passion, risk, escape, but she wanted the structure I provided. The insurance, the house, the reputation. She wanted me to raise his child so she could maintain her image while quietly living out her second life in the shadows. If I hadn't counted those kicks, if I hadn't logged every quiet denial and brushed off kiss, I would have never known. I left the diner with more than confirmation. I left with clarity. Back home, Laurel was on the porch with her laptop, sipping a smoothie and waving at me as I pulled into the driveway. Her smile was bright, happy, like the woman inside her wasn't planning a double life. She walked down the steps, met me at the car, and asked how my work errand went. I kissed her on the cheek and told her I'd stopped by the office to drop off paperwork. What I didn't tell her was that I'd also stopped by a second lawyer, one who specialized in fraudulent dependency and pre-birth asset protection. I was moving more than just boxes now. I was moving accounts, freezing credit lines, separating medical insurance, and updating beneficiaries. She thought I'd never find out. She thought my silence meant ignorance. But she never learned the real truth about me. I don't shout when I'm hurt. I disappear while they're still speaking. 3 days after meeting with Maeve, I started noticing how easily Laurel slipped into comfort. That was the part that chilled me most, how effortless her deception had become. She moved through the house humming softly, folding baby clothes, ordering diapers, and painting pastel animals on the nursery walls. There was no guilt in her eyes. No hesitance. She kissed me when I brought her tea, smiled when I rubbed her back, and thanked me as if I were a husband, not a placeholder. But even the best lies unravel when they get too comfortable. It happened late on a Thursday. Laurel was asleep on the couch, one arm draped over her bump, her phone loosely in her hand. She must have dozed off mid-scroll. I hadn't touched her phone since the last time. I didn't need to. I'd been collecting more than enough evidence with the help of a digital investigator Grant referred me to. But this time, something compelled me. Maybe instinct. Maybe I just needed confirmation that I wasn't imagining the weight of the secret I was about to detonate. Her screen was still glowing. Notifications muted. But I saw the most recent one, a voice message, not a text. Sent from a contact labeled laundry basket, subtle enough to avoid suspicion. But I knew better. I tapped it. His voice was unmistakable. Carter, I dreamed of you again last night. You were wearing that blue dress from the hotel. You know the one. I miss you. I wish we could just make it official already. You keep saying he's clueless, but I don't know how long you can drag this out. He's gonna notice. I mean, you already told him the kid's due in December, right? That doesn't even line up with what you told me. He laughed at the end of the message. A laugh that lodged in my chest like a rusted blade. She told him something different than she told me. And now even he was starting to notice. My timeline had been airtight for weeks. I'd built a digital archive of our intimacy, her absences, and the estimated conception window. Carter's timeline didn't match. Neither did mine. The only one who thought she could juggle both was Laurel. I sent the message to myself, backed it up, then deleted it from her phone's cache before placing it gently back in her hand and walking away. The next morning, I told her I was going out of town for work. She barely blinked. That's fine, baby, she said, sipping coffee. Just text me when you get there. No questions. No hesitation. I was giving her space to cheat, and she was grateful. Instead, I drove to a cabin outside of town that belonged to my cousin. Quiet. No cell service. Just me, my laptop, and a folder of growing documentation. I was building something, not a revenge plan, not a grand speech. A sequence. A slow collapse she wouldn't see coming until it was too late. The birth plan was the anchor. I knew from Laurel's calendar that she planned to deliver at Hillside General. I called them under a pretense, asked to confirm pre-registration details as the husband. The nurse on the line verified the name, the due date, and then asked if I had received the updated partner authorization form. Partner, not husband. Sorry, I said, trying to sound confused. What authorization? A pause. Oh, maybe I'm confusing you with the other contact. There's a form on file listing a Carter Morrison as the emergency contact and secondary partner. But if you're the spouse, then I'm not sure. Maybe there was a mistake in the paperwork. No mistake, I said. You've been helpful. Thank you. I hung up and stared at the mountains through the cabin window. The colors were changing, leaves going copper and red. A season ending. One thing was clear now. Laurel wasn't just hedging her bets emotionally. She was legally trying to give Carter a role in this child's arrival, while keeping me locked into the husband slot until the ink dried on whatever benefits she could extract. And I was done playing quiet. I sent a message to Maeve. Be ready. I need you to be there the day she finds out I'm gone. You'll know when. I left the cabin the next morning, but not for home. I had signed the final documents with Grant. Everything was in motion now. Financial accounts split, medical records restricted, insurance removed, power of attorney revoked, and a letter sealed in an envelope that would be left on our dining table, alongside a photo album, a sonogram I printed, and a tiny onesie that said, I tried. Back at the house, I waited until she left for one of her prenatal yoga sessions. Then I moved. Quietly. Efficiently. Everything of mine, gone in 2 hours. Boxes packed into a storage unit under a new lease. The bedroom stripped of my clothes. My toothbrush gone. Even the framed anniversary photo replaced with a blank canvas. She wouldn't even realize anything had changed until she got home and noticed the silence, the absence of sound, the emptiness of drawers, the echo in the closet, and then she'd see the envelope. Inside was my letter. Short, unemotional, just facts. You lied. You chose him. But you made me build the future. I won't be raising your consequences. I won't be your audience anymore. I was counting the kicks. And I knew. You gave him the child. You gave me the lie. I didn't leave a forwarding address. I didn't leave a number. I didn't leave a version of myself behind. Because the man she thought she could manipulate? He never existed. Not anymore. Laurel didn't call that night. Not the next morning either. In fact, for 71 hours, my phone stayed silent. That disturbed me more than any scream or accusation would have. I had imagined her reaction 1,000 times, the crying, the denials, the flurry of texts trying to guilt-trip me back into the trap. But nothing came. Not a whisper. The silence felt intentional, and that chilled me in ways I didn't know were possible. Then, on the 4th day, it happened. Maeve called. She didn't say hello. Just said, she knows. Apparently, Laurel came home from her class, walked into the house humming, carrying takeout in one hand and some baby brochure in the other. She didn't notice anything at first. She dropped her bag on the bench, called out my name, and headed toward the bedroom. That's when the air changed. The closet door was open. My drawers were empty. She ran her hand along the shelf where my cologne used to sit, gone. The toothbrush holder now held only hers. Even the coffee mug I used every morning, the chipped one with the red handle, was missing. Then she saw the envelope on the table. Maeve told me she stood over it for several minutes without touching it, just staring, breathing heavier, like she knew exactly what was inside. And when she finally opened it, she didn't cry. She laughed. A dry, stunned, almost mechanical laugh, the sound of someone realizing too late that the person they thought was a doormat had quietly grown teeth. She called Maeve next. I had left her name in the letter, the only name. Laurel asked to see her. Maeve agreed, only because I had asked her to be the one who watched it unfold. They met at a park the next day. Maeve described her as pale, thinner than usual, twitchy. Her words were measured, but beneath them, she was cracking. She asked me if I thought you'd ever come back, Maeve said. I told her no. Not this time. I wasn't doing this as a tactic. I wasn't disappearing to hurt her. This wasn't about revenge. It was about oxygen. I'd been living in a house filled with carbon monoxide, and I had finally stepped outside to breathe. And now Laurel was choking in the emptiness she built herself. That same night, I received the first message. A single-sentence email from her old account, the one she hadn't used in months. I don't understand how you planned all of this. I didn't reply. The next day, another one came. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. You just left, like I was nothing. Still, no reply. And then came the voicemail. She didn't cry in it, didn't beg. Her voice was cold, sharp, like she was trying to regain control. You've humiliated me, Ellis. You've embarrassed me to my family, to my friends. Do you really think anyone's going to believe your version of this? I'm pregnant. You left your pregnant wife. People will hate you for this. They'll see what kind of man you really are. I sat on the edge of a motel bed listening to her voice, and for the first time in years, I felt nothing. Not guilt, not fear, not grief. Just a hollow ache where love used to live. It wasn't over, though. I knew Laurel wouldn't just let go. The silence before was a tactic. This new wave of anger? A pivot. She was trying to shape the narrative, rewrite the ending. But she had no idea that I had already sent digital copies of everything, screenshots, photos, voice memos, to a secured cloud account with a time-based unlock system. If she ever tried to turn this into a courtroom battle, I wouldn't need to raise my voice. The evidence would speak for me. Still, I wasn't ready for what came next. A week later, I received a knock on the door of the small rental I was staying in, a knock I wasn't expecting, at a place no one should have known. When I opened the door, Maeve was standing there. She looked like she hadn't slept. She didn't greet me. Just walked in, sat down, and said, she's saying it publicly now. What? She told her friends, her family, everyone, that you left her out of the blue, that you abandoned her and the baby, that she's devastated and confused. People are already talking. You're being painted as a monster. I just stared at her. Did you say anything? Maeve looked guilty. Not yet. I didn't want to jump in until I talked to you. But Ellis, you need to understand something. Laurel's not going to stop. She can't afford to. She has a child coming, and she needs a clean narrative, one that makes her the victim. I nodded. I had expected this, but hearing it out loud still made the back of my neck burn. Maeve looked at me then, really looked. Are you going to let her destroy you? I stood up, walked to the window, and stared out at the parking lot. A single leaf floated past, brittle and brown, fluttering before hitting the pavement. No, I said softly, but I'm not going to destroy her either. Maeve raised an eyebrow. I'm going to let her destroy herself. All I have to do is step out of the way. 3 months passed. Then 4. I didn't return home. I didn't make a single public post. I didn't fight back when Laurel's version of the story spread like wildfire among mutual friends and distant relatives. People I hadn't heard from in years were suddenly sending passive-aggressive messages. Hope you're doing okay. Hard to believe what I heard. Some even came straight out with it. She's pregnant, Ellis. How could you walk away like that? I didn't explain. I didn't defend myself. Because I'd realized something. Sometimes, silence is more powerful than shouting. Sometimes, letting people believe what they want gives them enough rope to hang the lie themselves. And Laurel did. The cracks started to show on their own. Carter disappeared from her photos. The due date came and went, and the baby didn't arrive when she said it would. Someone eventually asked about the timeline. Someone else noticed the hospital had no record of me ever attending appointments. Maeve, bless her, never said a word publicly. But she nudged the truth gently where it needed to go. She didn't fight my battles, she just refused to lie for Laurel. And that made all the difference. One by one, the whisper shifted. Doubt crept in. People started reaching out again, apologizing for assuming. We didn't know. We're sorry, she said, but none of it mattered anymore. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. Because by then, something inside me had shifted, something permanent. I had found peace. Not the kind they sell in self-help books, or the kind that comes from closure. No, this was quieter. Deeper. It came from the freedom of knowing I had nothing left to lose that hadn't already been taken, and in losing all of that, I'd made space for something new. Her name was Eva. I met her on a walk through a botanical garden. She was sketching alone, her hair pulled into a messy braid, completely unaware of how still and beautiful the world looked around her. We didn't talk that day, not really. Just a passing good afternoon. But something about the way she smiled, not polite, not forced, stayed with me. I saw her again the next week. And the next. Eventually, we talked. Shared stories. Laughed. I didn't tell her everything. Not at first. But over time, I opened up, carefully, slowly. She listened. She never judged. She never rushed me. And when I told her about Laurel and the baby and how it all fell apart, she didn't pity me. She just said, I'm glad you left when you did. Most people never do. Eva wasn't a fairy tale solution. She didn't fix me. But she reminded me I was still human. Still capable of kindness, of curiosity, of being seen, not for what I had survived, but for what I still could become. A few weeks ago, I found myself walking past a baby store downtown. For the first time, I didn't flinch. I didn't feel bitterness or loss. I just watched a young couple through the glass, holding hands, laughing as they picked out onesies. And instead of pain, I felt hope. Real, steady, unshakable hope. Because I wasn't in hiding anymore. I wasn't shrinking. I was growing again. Laurel never reached out again after her narrative unraveled. She gave birth quietly, without fanfare, and from what I've heard, Carter didn't stay long after that. Maybe he realized what she'd done. Maybe he didn't. But it wasn't my story anymore. That chapter was closed. I didn't lose a family. I lost an illusion. And in its place, I gained something far more valuable, the chance to rebuild my life on truth, not fantasy. On peace, not performance. And maybe, just maybe, one day, I'll become the father I always wanted to be. Just not in the way I expected, but in a better one. A real one.